Now, lifeadministration.com presents the Life Administration Podcast. Here are your hosts, Leslie Loftus and Ryan Taylor.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Life Administration Podcast. My name is Ryan Taylor, and with me, as always, is Leslie Loftus.
Good afternoon, everyone, or morning, or whenever you're listening.
Whenever you're listening to this. How the heck's it going?
It's going mostly okay.
Okay.
There's obviously, okay, so I am, again, we're doing another recording marathon because I am, again, kidless. Now I'm kidless and husbandless for about 24 hours. And so last night, I decided to watch the end of Big Little Lies, that HBO. And remember a couple weeks ago when you and I talked about the Game of... he didn't watch Game of Thrones, but...
Don't hate tweet me because I didn't watch Game of Thrones.
I promise you I won't. But he had lots of buddies who did, so he heard tons about it, and then he heard an earful from me, and I'm definitely on the team. Hello, intricate storyline plot. And then all of a sudden it just... Oh, we need to finish it up, so let's just wrap it all up. The same... I mean... lesser, it's only 2 seasons, but just kind of the same thing. A whole lot of setup, a whole lot of development, and then, and it tied kind of with a Hollywood version of a happy ending bow, and it just... it left bad...
I feel like this happens a lot in shows, that people are very, very sort of unfulfilled with the season finale or whatever, the series finale. And so my wife and I watched a show like probably 5, 6, 7 years ago. It was called Burn Notice. It was on USA. It was a spy show. Amazing.
Totally love Burn Notice, and like the first 2 seasons, it's just spectacular.
Right.
Yes.
So
right. Yeah. Team Loftus is in with y'all on Burn Notice.
So we adore the show. We watch it so we just rewatched it. Mm-hmm. And I remember thinking, I loved the series finale the first time. Mm-hmm. I loved it. I was like, boy, like people need to...
I never got to it because it petered out. Right.
No, you got to stick with it.
Okay.
Because what happens is it goes from this like formulaic, like...
Angel did the same thing as I remember.
But then it sort of becomes much more about him like going back into the CIA, whatever. And then like it can get a little convoluted and hard to follow, but that's besides the point. The way that they wrap the show up is so good. And I watched it again for the second time, and I thought to myself, this was even better than I remember. They did such a good job. Okay. So shout out to Burn Notice.
There we go.
I like it so much that I got the sunglasses.
Nice.
Yeah, they're sitting right over there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, very nice.
Jeffrey Donovan would be happy with me.
Well done.
Because, he listens to this.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. I'm sure he does.
Anyway, episode 8, Planning for a Baby. Boy, so this is a big one, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, it's kind of a contradiction in terms, planning for a baby. That's what we're talking about in the sense of you want to say, is there a right time, right? But
there's never a totally right time, but there are lots of wrong times. And I think people get caught up on avoiding the wrong times and then almost mission creep. So I'm going to avoid the wrong times, and so I'm going to wait for the perfect time. Perfect time doesn't really exist.
Mm-hmm. So is there like a timeline to having a baby? Like, so for me, it's different because I'm a guy.
Right.
Right. And so there's just certain biological imperatives that I care less about.
Right.
So I sort of feel like at a disadvantage for this episode in that sense.
No matter how you slice it, no matter how good medicine gets, and if you actually go and read the literature now and some of the stories coming out now, medicine's really only able to work around the edges. They can only improve your chances. They can open the fertility window for women a little bit longer. If you get sick, they can help keep it open. So, that's how egg freezing, for instance, came about. It was originally a long shot treatment for, say, a woman who had ovarian cancer and was going to lose her ovaries. You could go and you could retrieve some eggs, freeze them in the hopes that she might be able to have children later after all the treatments were done. Okay. So for women especially, there's a much tighter window. There's still a window for men, but it's just much longer, wider.
Yeah.
It just is. You can cry about it all you want. We can talk about how it's not fair. Not changing. It is. So, part of the not so perfect time for are avoiding the wrong times is with women, the health risks and the fertility risks come at too early and too late in general. Of course, individual women might have their own different health issues in the middle that change things up. But for the most part, you want to avoid too early or too late. So you're talking about pre-20s and post-35 kind of thing. And it just is.
Yeah.
Right.
So I wonder, what about when someone gets the surprise, you're about to have the baby, you're going to have a baby, right? Because, let's be honest, right? Okay.
Sometimes it's a surprise.
Sometimes. What are some of the first things that you should do, right? So it's okay, I know that I'm having a kiddo. What do I do now?
Okay, one of the things that happens a lot these days is, forgive me, a lot of my talk is going to be kind of geared towards women. I'm going to have to rely on you to kind of, bring in the male perspective. But I am a woman, and when we're talking about being pregnant,
Absolutely.
80% of the activity is done,
Yeah, totally.
Right. So women are brought up and generally trained to not think about any of this stuff before they deem, oh my gosh, it's the perfect time to have a baby. So I'm going to start reading up on it. I'm going to start. And then they're focusing on getting pregnant and pregnancy. So the best thing that you can do to start planning for once you've decided, okay, it's time or I'm pregnant, get some kid experience. If you happen to be lucky enough to have one, say you're from a big family or you're the eldest in a big family, or maybe you did a lot of camp counseling, whatever it was when you were younger, lots of babysitting, that's how you made your summer money. That is great. The biggest thing you need is some experience. We tell women a lot, oh, don't worry, it's instinctual, Yes, there is some instinct element to motherhood. Same thing for fatherhood, because, by the way, I'm going to recommend the same thing for guys. You need to have some kid experience, and you need to have some baby experience. When you get home, when you get to the hospital, that should not be the first time you change a diaper.
So
nobody.
30-second commercial break.
30-second commercial break, go.
One of the best things that I did in my career is I worked for KLC, which is Knowledge Learning Corporation. And they essentially, they're a big parent company of KinderCare, Learning Center, right? There's just that, but I get to go in there and really be with a lot of kids, and that really, really helps me a ton, especially from a behavioral
Especially
standpoint.
now as your child is getting to about that age, you have some perspective.
Absolutely, but at the same time, I was in there with 6 weeks old kiddos,
they
right?
had tinies. Okay.
So they do it from 6 weeks to 12 years.
Okay.
And then also that my mom had my sister a lot later, so I was 15 or 16 when my sister came along, so I had some experience there. So I was really, really fortunate. And I didn't realize how much that meant until my daughter came along, honestly. So I just wanted to say, I'm backing up that point 100%. Find a way, volunteer, get in front of find people, a play group,
because
whatever.
when all of the books come along, when all the experts come along and tell you, don't worry, you'll know what to do, you'll have an instinct for it. Not if you don't have any experience to draw on. If you've never been around kids of a varying age, and they tell you should have these, and then you feel guilty so you can get into quite a bit of a spiral, and then you're constantly looking at books. But as anybody who's perused all the parenting books, this one contradicts this one directly. How do you even judge which one you're going to use, which one you think is correct, if you have no perspective because you've never dealt with this before? So the biggest thing to do especially say when you get pregnant, if you don't, you're pregnant, oh my gosh, you don't have any kid experience, go find some of your parent friends that do, and offer to babysit a little bit, offer to hang out with them. One of the best, first of all, because we had a great time, but one of my girlfriends had children. Actually, her son was born the day that Jim and I got married. Her first son was. And when we got back from Switzerland because we lived overseas right as we got married. And we got back a few months later. And so, oh, goodness gracious, he was probably 4 or 5 months old at that time. I used to go up to Austin. They lived outside of Austin. And I'd spend, 36 hours with her just helping her do the mother thing. She got a little bit of a break because somebody was there helping out. She and I got some great bonding time, and I got some real hands-on experience that I supplemented because I actually am eldest in a large extended family, or not eldest, but one of the elder in a large extended family. So, and I did do a lot of babysitting when I was, so I did have it, and my brother's 8 years younger than I am, same kind of thing. And that was huge because I hadn't done anything with babies and kids for quite a while. So by the time that I had my son 3 years later, it made a huge difference.
So
made a huge difference.
5 minutes to say, spend time with kids before you have kids.
Spend time with kids before you have kids of a large age range. You want to do the babies. You want to do the under twos and the toddlers, and
it adds a lot of perspective to yourself too, right? So it's not
you
even
want to
just
do the
about
elementary kids.
Yeah, it's not even just about necessarily just spending time with kids to learn how to take care of kids. Like you get to know like what things you're really good at and what things that you need some help with, right? Whether that be
and
like,
what's normal behavior and what's typical for the age and what is you know what, we need to worry about that.
Yep, totally.
All of it.
So
and there's all sorts of ways to do that, from everything from call up your parent friends to go volunteer at your church Sunday school to options abound.
If you want it, you'll find it.
Yes.
Second thing, money. So let's just sort of talk about like, I know, right? So kids, they cost a significant amount of money. Anyway.
Now, tell them about the formula and diaper story. Like,
So here's a perfect explanation of something unexpected. So when my daughter was born, she had a really bad digestive issue. She was allergic to a lot of things, and she thankfully has grown out of maybe 80% of them.
which also, by the way, is typical. Yeah.
So when we first started, Lauren did breastfeeding, and she like a lot for about a year until it was like, if I pump again, like literally I will murder someone.
I hate pumps.
Right. So she like, it was time for a family sanity check because it needed to stop. So then we had to go on this other formula, which was $13 a bottle. She would drink about a bottle a day. So all of a sudden it was like, I had this car payment at the end of the month just out of nowhere.
Right.
And all of a sudden I had to budget for it. And then, oh, by the way, like you still have your normal diapers and your appointments for the doctor and all that sort of stuff. But suffice to say that you can't plan for everything. It's probably going to cost more than you think it is. And you just got
margin of error into your budget.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, I don't even know what the number is. It's probably 20% because I would say it's just more than you think because, every kid is different, right? Every child is so different. You might have a child and they might not have any problems whatsoever, which is fantastic. It could also be much worse than just a digestive problem as well, right? Like we would count our lucky stars that was the only issue that we had. So anyway, they cost a lot of money. What about where should we be sort of in our career? Like what's going on?
Okay. Well, and one of the reasons we're doing this podcast of life administration. Okay. If all of the stuff I've talked about, to-do lists, the things that we're going to talk about, calendars, budget, if it all seems a little bit of overkill, really, do you need to be that detailed and stuff like that? When the first child comes along, it's not overkill. It's like, oh, that's why my filing system has to be in order because I don't actually have time to do that. Readily apparent in budgeting. If you haven't made I only want 20% to go to my mortgage, and when I don't want to have a car debt, so I'm not going to buy a car that I can't buy out, right? If you haven't done that budgeting stuff, and also if you haven't done it for a few years, then when the kid comes along, it becomes really difficult to do because things get out, and who's not going to, well, no, of course you've got to do this for your child, so it gets very hard to control. It gets very hard to see. Then there's so much pressure that kids need stuff. I mean, at this point you would say with a 3-year-old, did you need nearly as much stuff? I'm talking about things like diaper caddies and all that. Like, is a lot of that stuff just like 2 years to the landfill kind of thing?
Yeah, no, absolutely. There is sort of like the perfect example I can think of is the diaper genie. No disrespect, diaper genie, but this is the fact. Is I just put it in my trash can.
Right.
Because you gotta first, it's a separate area of the house. You got these refills, and like they still stink.
Yep.
And so
it's
like
still plastic.
that went by the wayside.
Odor.
Went by the wayside. And then, I think the other thing is like toys, right? So my wife Lauren and I, we subscribe to the once upon a child theory, where it's like we go buy toys from the used toys shop. We play with them for 3 to 4 months. We then bring those toys back. They give us X amount of dollars for them. We buy new toys. Like so now it's like we didn't sort of get that until probably a year in, because
the old cliche about the kids play more with the box. I've had that multiple times.
Yeah. So there's that sort of, it doesn't have to look a certain way. It doesn't, like, there's going to be a lot of societal pressure, I think, to like when we had our bridal shower, one of the people that came, like, they brought us this like beautiful diaper cake, and it was like this, that, and the other thing, and everyone's buying these extravagant things, and it's like, you actually don't really need any of that. What you need is good planning, a lot of patience, and a lot of love. And it's like, if you got those 3 things, you're good.
And there are some essentials, and I will make a PDF linkable thing that we can do of, look, here are the really essential items here are the nice to have, because I already have this list, by the way. I need you to help me look over it since it's been a little while since I've written
no problem.
But the essentials to have, that this would be nice to have, and then, dude, leave it at the store. I mean, just, like for the diaper genie, lidded trash can, plain old lidded trash can.
Gets the job done.
Right. It gets the job done. It doesn't smell anymore. And you just have to take it out every night. It's just.
Which should be in your rhythms anyway.
Because, the diaper genie by, letting it.
Yeah.
Because heaven forbid if the dog should get rid, we have dog issues around here. So there's tons of stuff. And if you haven't done your budgeting, if you haven't done your pre-baby life administration getting set, then it's really easy to get persuaded by, oh my gosh, I need that beautiful thing, or I need that fun thing. And it's always freaking plastic. It's just.
Yep.
Sorry.
So where should people be, like, in their careers? Like, where do you think they, in an ideal situation?
Oh boy, this is not going to be popular. All right.
Oh, great.
The current trend is for women in particular to delay childbearing until they establish their career. But what that means is that women are, because let's just take the medical part. Let's take out the care considerations, because maybe dad wants to stay home with the kids, whatever it is. So let's take out that care element and just take the health. Woman is pregnant. Woman has a baby, needs some physical recovery time.
Got it.
Okay, so give that about, the whole process then is about a year or so. The intensive recovery and stuff is 4 or 5 months, because at the very end of pregnancy, well, you're waddling around. You really can't do that. You can't do nearly as much as you think you can at late pregnancy. And then afterwards, well, you can't do as much as you think you can either, because I want to say your wife did it. I certainly did it. Most of my friends did it. You feel kind of fine. So, and then the first time the baby sleeps for 3 hours or so, you think you can run a marathon. You can't. You're going to overdo it, and then you're that much more tired. And heaven forbid if you had stitches or anything else.
I think we're like 3 years in. We still haven't figured that out yet. Honestly.
You can overdo it during your recovery. Yep. Okay. So you've got a 4 or 5 month period. So you're taking that time off, or that time stepping back. I don't want to sound like Sheryl Sandberg here in the lean in thing, but you're leaning back at a critical middle advancement stage of your career. It's it's just kind of nuts, which is why women started pushing it, a little later. But the problem there is once you're getting up to 40, you're running into some reality about fertility statistics. And there's a lot of denial about these fertility, but they're there. Facts are stubborn things. You can't really argue with them. Most women would like to have part-time jobs. So they want to be because they still want to be part in, some sort of thinking world, and but they also want to have flexibility and time to help to raise their children. Correct. The one stage that is most compatible with this, and by the way, Betty Friedan's Feminine Mystique, this was the point in the last chapter, Making a New Life Plan for Women. What she said was, get your career or get your education established first. Make sure that you have a plan after your education. But one of the things she was calling on colleges and universities to do was to make more accommodations for families. And if you think about the part-time sort of, I want to be able to work from home for a lot and maybe only do 20 hours a week, or sounds like college or sounds like grad school, with maybe the exception of medical school. Have an education plan. Absolutely. I completely agree with that. But we need to stop delaying until our careers are established. It doesn't do anything for our careers, and it doesn't do anything for our fertility. And here's the thing. So let's say you're a truly ambitious woman, okay, because you want to be in the C-suite, okay. If you also want to have children, then you don't have time for this kind of you don't have time for that big break in the middle. You need to do the Margaret Thatcher plan. This is not very well known, at least I don't think so. But she got married in her early 20s. She had a set of twins around 26. And she stood for 2 elections that she lost while the kids were little. So 2 Minister of Parliament elections, and got some experience because they were putting her up in seats that they knew that the Tories would lose. But she got some campaigning experience, et cetera. And she entered Parliament as her twins entered grade school. And she had told her husband from the beginning, I am not the kind of stay-at-home. So he took on that available parent role. But then from that point, the kids go to school. Dennis is at home as the available parent, and she has a free run. So for the truly ambitious, if you also want to have children, then you need to front load that.
That's pretty good. And I'll tell you what, from where I'm standing right now is that...
Sorry, I didn't expect this to be as much career-y as we were talking about here.
I think it's great because you're obviously super passionate about it. So I love that. But where I'm standing...
I've seen too many of my friends go through failed IVF treatments
So where I'm standing right now is Lauren and I, excuse me, we waited a little bit longer than I think maybe we wanted to, and partly that was kind of due to my career at the time. It's like, if you've been listening for any amount of time, you know that I traveled a lot and I was in the corporate world and all that sort of stuff. And now I'm a music teacher and I do this. And ultimately what had happened was we had our daughter a little bit later than we planned, just a little bit later than maybe we had planned, maybe by like 2 years or so. But what now has happened is our daughter's 3. My wife just turned 35. So now if we want 3 kids, we've always kind of wrestled around with that idea. And now we're starting to think, well, maybe we're going to have to make some compromises, or we're going to have to do things a little bit differently, or now do we have to rush? All of a sudden, there's this immense pressure that wasn't there before where we're like, we got to get this figured out right away. And that doesn't feel good, right? Because now it feels like it's not on our terms anymore. It feels like it's, on chaos's terms instead of ours. So that's the other side of the spectrum.
And that kind of rolls right back to what we were talking about at the beginning, is when we're talking about Mother Nature issues like this, we aren't in control. We have this idea that medicine that has given us control. It's given us control not to have children. It hasn't given us any control really on when to have them. Okay, that hasn't changed. And it's kind of surprising when you come to that realization. And by the way, I know other people like you as well. It's like, oh, because they got the first one and then they're like,
oh, wait a minute. Yep.
oh, wait, but we did want to have 4. Oh, goodness gracious, that math doesn't work anymore. Then there's the other thing when you're thinking about, sorry, one more plug for not delaying too much. Grandparents. You will want to have grandparents in your children's, for the most part. I mean, obviously, if you have abusive parents, that really should go without saying. Okay. You, the parent, will want to have the grandparents in the child's life. The children and the grandparents. I mean, when we have aging people, the interaction with the younger generation, I mean, that's just huge for them. What grandparents can teach grandchildren, it's huge. This is a wonderful relationship that we as a society need to encourage and nurture. And the longer you wait, the older your parents. So my husband and I were 10 years apart, and we were both born about the same time in our parents' lives. So our parents are about 10 years apart. So when Patrick was born, my mother was 65 and his mother was 75, something around mid-60s, mid-70s. The amount of activity that my mother was able to do with the children versus my mother could still get on the floor, knees down, and, like roll around with them and stuff and have fun. His mother couldn't. That was pretty devastating for him and it's not something that you think of until all of a sudden it's right there. My father-in-law had a triple bypass the week before my son was born, and he had a stroke the week before my daughter was born. He survived both, and he was around to see all 4 grandchildren, all 5 actually, from my brother-in-law and sister-in-law. But I mean, it was touch and go right before Patrick came along. My husband was devastated by this.
Yeah. You're not going to read that in any book anywhere.
No. And it's just not something you think about until all of a sudden you're handing your child to your parent, and it's like, oh, well, since I didn't have children until I'm 40, you're 70, almost 80. Okay. That's hard.
That's hard. Mm-hmm. Wow.
I didn't expect this episode to be so depressing.
No. We're going to shift gears here. We're
going to shift gears to more, boring admin rather than.
Here we go. So, what do you really need? We touched upon it earlier, but what are the things that we really need? We know that we need less than we think, but give us some stuff here.
And when you're early on, you need some of those. You need diapers. You need to be prepared for bottle feeding or. If you're going to try breastfeeding, great. Let's talk about that for a quick second. Sorry. Nursing is convenient, easy, cheap, all that stuff after 6 to 8 weeks. Before 6 to 8 weeks, when the baby's first home, when you're trying, it's a slog. And I think we sell a story of, it's just wonderful and it's instinctual and
it's very hard.
It's not. It's not. And you need somebody who's done it before, most likely to help you through. I mean, rare is the baby that just latches on. And also, if you have a barracuda, then brace, because it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt. All of that stuff. So you need to be prepared for, and just be realistic. There's a ton of stuff. The first 6 weeks with a baby are just really difficult because it just keeps coming and you're not getting any sleep. So you need to have, you need frankly, in which Norwegian country is it? I can't remember. There's a box that they give you from the hospital, and it's a box, and it's got some essentials in it, some bottle items, some diapers, a few of the little, no, they don't do drawstring anymore, but the elastic nightgowns, and the box is the bed.
Right.
Right. So the box is frankly, really, babies, when they're really, really tiny, they don't move. They need a clear, flat, mattressy-like space to sleep so that, but that's it. They don't need a whole lot, like the whole, and the mobiles and the fancy beds. You don't need any of that stuff yet.
Agreed. You're going to get all that stuff. You're going to set your nursery up. You're going to do the whole thing. And then they're not going to be in there for 6 months. Like
Right.
Straight up.
Right. You can spend some time. You need a diaper changing area. And also, if you have a 2-story house, you need one upstairs and one downstairs. But diapers, feeding, sleeping. Really the only things that you need to take care of. And then one other thing. My sister-in-law is a pediatric intensivist. And I was told in no uncertain terms, and after 4 children, I have come to completely agree with her. You don't even really need much of a diaper bag and stuff yet, because she was like, oh no, until 8 weeks, especially since my son was born in November. And so it's right before flu season. She's like, no, you're not going anywhere.
I know.
For 8 weeks.
So dumb.
Don't. There's no reason to take the baby anywhere for 8 weeks. After that, she's like, pretty much, unless the stick that they pick up off the ground has cat poo on it and they're putting that in their mouth, she's like, I don't care.
Yeah.
8 weeks. No. So, there's so much stuff you can put off until you have a little bit of an idea of, first of all, did breastfeeding take, or are you going to have to budget for formula?
Yep.
Diapers, oh goodness gracious, some people have big babies, some people have super small babies, and suddenly the size 1s, well, this baby needs to start on size 2 and this one needs to start on preemies. Will you get to the size 1s? Probably. But there's just tons of stuff you can put off.
I think the best example that I can give right now is that my daughter's 3. We are in the conversation of having our next. Mm-hmm. And it is a mass exodus of stuff from our house. That was all of our daughters, that most people would go like, I can't believe you're getting rid of this. I can't believe you're getting rid of it. Listen,
I can.
Yeah, we didn't use it, right? And so
and it's clutter.
Yeah, and it is, and it drives me nuts. And so we're adopting a much more of a wait and see kind of approach, right? Mm-hmm. We're going to see what the needs of this particular child are, and then we're going to plan around that, right? More than it. So, I mean, if I could sum up everything that we just said, yes, you need diapers. Yes, you need to figure out.
And again, I'll put up a list.
Yeah, we're going to and we'll even do a quick little mini cast on that. Just like here.
Great idea.
Yeah, here are a couple things that we need to do.
Right.
I think the thing as a dad, the first 6 to 8 weeks, you feel a little useless. So, yeah, you can just
go this way.
Yeah. So you feel a little useless, only because I want to talk a little bit about roles and chores, because those things shift when that baby comes. Things that you used to do as a wife or a husband, like there's got to be some things that move around there, as far as maybe you didn't do the laundry on your laundry day. Well, guess what, sunshine? Like, you better become an expert very quickly, because like if you don't do it as a dad, like it's probably not getting done.
Right.
Because mom has been up a ton, baby is crying or screaming or whatever. If you didn't do the dishes,
and one of the
you
reasons you
them.
have those set patterns and roles is because when you come to a stage like this, and early babydom is it. Mm-hmm. Everything has to go sideways. So as much as you can leave the same, like the procedure, like everything is set up in the laundry room and ready to go, and you have the washing powder, etc. The more you can have set like that, the better. Okay, first of all, there's a 50-50 ideal out there that, okay, we need to split, as husband and wife, we need to split all the chores 50-50. Meaning if I get up on 3 nights a week, he needs to get up 3 nights a week. If I'm doing, dishwashing, he's doing cooking, or however, okay. 50-50, effective 50-50 does not work like that. Because it's too much. You need to, I can't remember. Sorry, we have new mics and I'm not supposed to snap. I'm not supposed to tap the table. Okay.
You sound like I have you chained to like the chair right now.
You kind of do. Dang it. This is how I talk.
You can still do that. Just don't hit anything.
All right. Anyway, with 50-50, what is the capitalist term I'm thinking of? I can't remember it right now. But job specific. So if you're trying to break things up, so you're doing half the laundry, I'm doing half the laundry, you're doing half the cooking, I'm doing half the cooking, we're wasting just a whole lot of time in switching over jobs. It's much easier to take on zones. So for instance, mainly because mom is in recovery, mom is likely trying to breastfeed. So mom is about baby, okay? Everything having to do with the baby is mom. Dad is about mom. That means running interference with family. That means doing all the household stuff, feeding the dogs, doing the laundry, doing the crazy laundry runs. And also that means that dad might actually get some sleep and be able to relieve mom sometimes when she's just just needs to get some downtime. But if you're both completely tapped out on sleep deprivation, then there's nothing to catch. There's nothing to
fall back on.
Nothing to fall back on.
Yep.
Right. Now, this does not mean that, dad never holds the baby or anything else. But it means mom's duty is focusing on little one. Dad's duty is focusing on mom to the extent that mother-in-laws and father-in-laws and stuff come in. Then they can help support dad and the household. Maybe one person gets assigned, like it was my mother with me, and she would come in and she was helping me with the baby. So she was my primary relief with my children. And then Jim was running all of and that goes on for 4, 5, 6 weeks. Here's the other, but when you look at it, people are like, well, that's not 50-50. I'm getting up all the time and he's not getting up at all. If you look at it but if you look at the actual amount of chores, you're not doing any of the household stuff. And you need to think of 50-50 not in precisely equal 2 equals 2, but more 2 equals 1 plus 1. There are different roles and by the way, it happens as you go on with a timeline. So when the children were, and we'll talk about this more, I guess, in a later episode about general family management. When the children were 5 and under, it was all me. They were all about mom. I was running all the life and I was running all of that technical stuff. And most of their time and my time spent together. By the time they started cresting 5, and now I have teenagers and preteens, it's dad. Dad's Dad's the one that's driving around a lot. It switches.
It switches. And I can tell you that.
Right.
Even now.
Don't get hung up on this. We need to have an equal 50-50 balance for the week. Think about it in terms of years.
Yep. I mean, even, I got this tan on me right now because my daughter...
You spend a lot of time at the pool.
My daughter's obsessed with swimming. She loves to swim. And I like to take her to the pool. And it's something that we do. And we typically do it 3 to 4 times a week. And we spend 3 hours there. You know what I mean? So, and by the way, I work too, right? So I don't get caught up in I'm doing all of this stuff right now because I know and I remember and I also know that in the future things are going to be different, right? And so you have to be able to have this sort of ebb and flow. You have to be flexible and you have to be able to speak to each other. I think it's important for parents to be able to speak to each other with care and remember it's going to be frustrating and there are going to be times where you're going to want to wring each other's necks. But y'all are on the same... And sleep
deprivation makes you slightly crazy.
And it makes you do things. I mean, I literally, I'm not
There's
perfect.
been a few times that you've shown up for music lessons looking like
ragged.
the hair on the dog.
Yeah. Yep, and looking a little ragged. And I probably even said to you, I snapped at Lauren last night. She asked me to get up for the 3rd time in a row, and I just lost my mind. And I whipped the blankets off, all angry. Right? You just.
I'm a terrible mother at 4 a.m.
And it's
let me tell you.
Yeah, right. And so you just have to account for those kinds of things and just kind of work through it, you know, and just realize that's not who you are. Whether you're in a couple or you're a single parent, you still have to allow yourself a little bit of grace. Otherwise you'll beat yourself up.
Right.
So, okay. So shifting gears again, we're going to move on to registry talk. So what I should do is just fill up my registry as much as possible, right?
No.
What? What do you mean?
That kind of goes into the essential items of what you need and what you, what you need, what would be nice to have, and just leave it at the store. But you can get into overkill real fast. And like you said, you don't know.
You don't know what you don't know.
You don't know what you don't know. I mean, first of all, it kind of depends on the weather, whether or not you're going to use onesies or footy pajamas. Two, some kids are just better, like even at an early stage, they're going to have preferences about what it's easy to get them in and out of and how they like to be swaddled and stuff. So maybe you got these 4 types of swaddlers, but they really like this one, right? And that's the one that really works. Well, you're going to want 4 of those. You don't want, your wait and see stuff from earlier was a really, really good idea.
I mean, every once in a while.
Yeah.
Not too often. Not too often. I think one of the things that you wrote on our show notes, and I wish that I had thought of this earlier, was activity areas. Like sort of setting your house, like you wrote in your show notes. I'm going to read it word for word. Okay. You still want some adult space in the household. I don't have any adult space in the household, right? Yeah, because we lost that battle way too early.
Because you lost the battle if you didn't set the battle. If you didn't know the battle was coming, then it's this mission creep. Same thing with the registry. Same thing. Same thing with the budget. If you haven't set general parameters of your budget, if you haven't set a general idea of how you want activity spaces to work in your house, then yes, you're going to find that the next, a year later, you look around and there is no longer any adult-only space in the house. And by the way, by adult-only, I don't mean like the children are never allowed in there.
Yeah, this isn't like you go like, oh, the couches are covered with plastic kind of thing.
No, I mean... No. It's you go in there and the couches aren't covered with Matchbox toys or Legos. Right. Go through your house. Same thing when we were talking about how to set up a household and go through your different areas of, okay, well, this is where we're going to watch TV. Okay, think through. I would highly recommend you have some of the parents, so let's say you're 4 months pregnant. Second trimester is a fabulous time to do this. So you're in your second trimester. Have some of your friends, just 2 or 3, that have children, just a little older than yours, come through, walk through the house. So, okay, this is a great place for a diaper changing area. This is a great place, at first you're going to wash the baby in the sink, but then you're going to move up and you're going to be in this bathroom, that sort of thing. And have some designated areas of, well, this is where the kids' stuff happens, and set a few areas where this is where there's no kids' stuff that happens. You're going to want that peace of mind eventually because there's only so much bright red, orange, blue, and green you can take.
Yeah, I'm sort of sighing right now because I just, like I said, we lost that battle early, and we are just recently coming out of it because we started to set our zones, right? As we started, right? So as we've gone through this podcast, I'm sort of learning to do things in a new and different way. And so as we're setting our zones, we're still, that's why there's this exodus of junk right now. You need a space to just relax.
Yes.
You need a space to just hang out and relax and not have, like you said, the bright reds, the oranges, the yellows, the flashing lights, the mobiles, whatever. That is critical to
you
your
need a space to be an adult, both as an individual adult, I still have things that interest me. And then also as a couple. I mean, one of the easiest ones, but these days it's not as popular, would be, have your bedroom be a kid-free space. Much more difficult. At least have a sitting area in your bedroom be a kid-free space, So you have time to be an adult yourself, and you have time to be adults together.
Yeah. So we're going to put a bow on this. I think we're getting close to the 45-minute mark right now.
I think we might be.
So
I just saw him do 40 a few minutes ago.
I want to just kind of tie this up, and we'll do a quick little mini cast of bullet by bullet. Here's sort of what we think you absolutely need.
I've got a registry breakdown, and I've also got a trimester breakdown of during the first trimester, do this kind of stuff. During the second trimester, do this kind of stuff.
Yeah, but I would say one of the big takeaways go spend time with children before you have kids.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Critically important. If you are a woman that you want to kind of get this thing going pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Right? For all that we talked about the Thatcher plan a little bit earlier.
Yeah. If you are career oriented and you still want to have children, then you don't have time to fiddle around with the
All of it,
IVF mess. Yeah.
Destroy the misnomer of 50-50.
Yes.
That's not a real thing.
Well, it is a real thing. It's just not a 50-50 of
in the moment.
In the
or
moment,
the week,
right?
in the
exactly.
month.
When you look back over 18 years, you're like, oh,
Yeah,
there we go. We got 50-50,
Yeah.
easy peasy.
So don't get caught up in like that sort of daily
Right.
distraction of it,
Right.
but kind of step back, look at it from 10,000 feet, and treat each other with grace. Treat yourself with grace, because this is going to be one of the hardest things that you've ever done.
And you will make, if only for sleep deprivation, you will make mistakes.
Absolutely. You don't need as much stuff as you think you need.
Oh dear, you don't.
And kind of take a wait and see approach for those things that you do need or you're not sure about.
Right.
Because there's nothing that is going to happen that is going to be like, oh, if I don't have this one thing, everything is like, I don't want to say like my baby's going to die. That feels morbid,
Right.
but you
Yes.
understand what I'm saying. Like the point is like,
oh my gosh, everything will fall apart if we don't have.
You're gonna be fine. Just but from that standpoint, just relax. It's all gonna be good. Okay, so now that we've tied a bow on that, I just want to say I really enjoyed this actually. Like it kind of started off a little somber.
Well, it can be a depressing topic, and better yet, it's a bit of a topic that nobody really wants to talk about it, but it needs to be talked about. And it has been talked about, but people tend to ignore because nobody wants to talk about the timeline. It's no, it's not comfortable. No.
Yeah, not comfortable, so
no.
we don't talk about it.
Right.
In any case,
La, 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 la.
Leslie, where can people find you if they want to get into contact with you?
Mostly on the website. There will be an email there, and I will be playing in the comments, but you can also occasionally find me on Twitter at Leslie Loftus TX.
And you can find me at Ryan Talon, RyanTaillon. That'll do it for us today, guys. Thank you so much for sticking with us, and we will see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.